Oh, hello there. Welcome to Solita Crash Course. Hopefully you're awake since today's topic is this great thing called the Agentic Enterprise and the Structural AI. Before introducing your hosts, I will quickly introduce you to the hosting company. If you don't know, Solita is this great company originally coming from Finland, and we've been 30 years in the software development business, but already 15 years in the AI and data professional services included in the critical infrastructure in the Nordic countries. So therefore, this new, everybody has heard about the topic of AI currently, but for us, we've been working in it for quite a while. So nothing new to us, but let's say there's a bunch of new ingredients added to the mix. I don't want to bore you with references and so on, but I think I just want to state that Solita is not really a proof of concept company. What I would call ourselves that we're the company who sets you up with the operations and the processes, not for one use case, for hundreds of use cases. It's all about the operating model and doing AI solutions again and again, instead of in one-time experiments. But then coming back to the hosts, Marika, who the heck are you?
Hi, I'm Marika Piispanen. I work as a strategic digital designer at Solita. I am passionate about making employee experience better so people can focus on what they are hired for, they can work on what they are educated for, instead of using bad systems and finding data from wherever it exists. And I've been working in digital design and advisory in public and private sectors, and I'm really specialized also to circular economy and fashion industry. I have been at Solita for 6 years. How about you, Joel?
Pleasure. My name is Joel Vanhalakka. I have a dark past in service design and business research, but for the past 7 years I've been working at Solita with this fantastic concept called data. Previously I used to say that I'm trying to save people from bad data, but currently it's seemingly more going towards saving people and AI agents from bad data. But currently operating with the role of an AI advisory studio lead here at Solita. But from my soul, I'm still the kind of information architect of the team. So that's it about me, and going to the topic of today. Please, Marika.
Today, we are going to tell you what is structural AI and agentic enterprise, and why should your organization care. How to get started with structural AI, and we're going to demonstrate you a vision of structural AI for retail so that you can understand how does this work in practice. Then we're going to explain you how you would translate these kind of visions to agentic delivery. So, what is structural AI and why is it relevant right now? There are 3 ways AI creates value. It's first augmenting people, giving them AI tools that can make their work a little bit more efficient and do they work a little bit quicker maybe. Then you can improve processes by looking at the existing processes and bolting AI into it so that it becomes a little better. But what we want to talk about today is structural AI. It's about redesigning work. It's about redesigning workflows in a way that AI enables. So what wasn't earlier before without these tools? Why are we doing this?
Thank you, Marika. My favorite example for kind of the problem that we're solving here is the reality from software development. Software development was one of the first places where these agentic solutions entered with quite the speed, fastness, and made quite the hard impact as well. But then one thing which the whole market was kind of wondering for a while, that yeah, they feel at least like completely transformative, but why the heck doesn't that actually speed up the whole process of how fast we can deliver software? Well, because everybody who has ever worked in software data or any kind of technical delivery probably understand this fact that the whole delivery, the actual part of coding is actually relatively small, so to say. And the problem which is causing the problems with the end-to-end delivery is usually the coordination between different people, participants, approvals, decision-making. If you deliver the wrong thing, then you have massive rework and so on. So you can kind of already get the point that it's these cascading organizational cues that we realized quite early on with the agentic delivery that you need to fix that. But now, when we're creating these agentic solutions for everybody else, as the tools have gotten better and more user-friendly and so on, it's the same freaking queues everywhere. So you implement an agentic solution for marketing. It doesn't help if the brand review is in a month from now. You implement something for the HR, implement something for the sales. It's the same bottlenecks everywhere, which is usually the coordination between people. And then when you bring in agents to the mix, they could kind of help. But you need to kind of set the right flight altitude then to fix this thing. So what is then the structural AI when we talk about it at Solita? It's the solution where the AI plays such an important piece of the puzzle that if you were to pull it out, maybe the Eiffel Tower won't fall, but at the very least it will cause some kind of disruption and so on. So quite the important solution for the whole value stream. Some examples. Let's take one of the most known reference cases for Solita on predictive maintenance, which is one of the, let's say, people call it traditional, but I think it's quite important piece of the AI puzzle is these forecasting models and so on. So predictive maintenance is one of the most common cases we've ever implemented. I've been participating in this myself quite many times. And the reality there is that let's imagine the forecasting models which are powering this, that you know when the stuff is going to break. If you were to take this out, you would be back to just manually waiting until the stuff breaks and then you fix it. Quite important. Another then LLMs entered the game. So a good example is from Fimea, which is the Finnish National Registry for Medicine. And with them, we have a case basically that for adverse reaction reporting. So just it's the same learnings. You can apply this to any place where we're using language models basically to process massive amounts of information and materials, which are then guiding the work of people and so on. So it would be impossible practically once you implement these tools to do the same work with the same amount of people. And then we go to the agentic solutions. There's the one we've been doing this in the industrial section quite a bit currently, these kind of Ask HR solutions, where parts of the HR process are now being handled by agents, which naturally allows the HR to work in the higher value cases where well-being and human judgment is actually required. So if we were to pull out the agent piece of the puzzle, the HR would be pulled back into these routine tasks of just curating information for the users.
And this is what makes it also meaningful. People can focus on people instead of scraping some information and transferring it. But they can all really focus on how to support people in their roles, for example, in this case.
Yep. But then this is where kind of went from forecasting models all the way to the agents and so on. But our claim is kind of that if you start implementing agents into the place, something similar is going to happen to you, what often happens in predictive maintenance as well. So I mentioned I've been working at these cases earlier quite many times already, but this it usually just begins with the kind of simple vision that we start detecting anomalies for specific components, and based on that we can start optimizing that when does the maintenance guy go to the facility to kind of change the engine or whatever is breaking and so on. But this is the key point. Quite soon after you implement the first piece of the AI puzzle there, you get to the fact that, hey, we can actually start optimizing also when do we buy the spare parts for everything. So we can optimize the whole supply chain for kind of the maintenance logistics and so on. Beautiful. Then suddenly you get to the place that, hey, this is actually quite important data also for the people who are going to maintain whatever is breaking. You know which part is breaking and how do you do the maintenance. So what if we add that to the mix? And finally you get to this kind of level that you have such a compounding amount of data and processed information that you can start offering this, for example, as a service to your competitors or so on. But that's the key point here, that we're kind of expecting the similar kind of situation to be appearing also for these agentic solutions over time, that they become embedded in your value stream. And kind of it's also the place you want to set because it's the highest place of value. You want to go there, but it's kind of, it implements complexity.
So what we really want in structural AI, we want to go to that end. We want to vision that kind of end where we can implement like a new service offering, but we have to go those steps first. So now we want to hear from you, audience, where are you now? Where is your organization? Are you giving the tools? Are you improving some processes here and there? Or are you actually...
Yes, according to our guidance here at the studio, you should find the poll window somewhere in the right corner of the chat.
Right top corner.
Yes,
yeah.
Right top corner. Hopefully I'm not giving Eronos wrong data to the agents watching this. According to some rumors, we can also see the results. Yes, indeed. So is anybody watching the show? This will also showcase that. Okay. A lot of answers going to the top corners. There's somebody doing rediscovery of their value streams. Please give us a call. Tell us what you're doing. We're highly interested as well. So, yes. So what we also already kind of expected, it's the top one corners. Most companies have already done these parts of the puzzle. And only some companies are now entering into the rediscovery and changing the value streams and how they're doing work altogether. So I think, well, we're going forward, is what I can tell, but that's great to see.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to set up with this intro is kind of, these are the two questions we want you to keep in mind throughout while you're watching us. Just put left side of your brain to work at these questions at the same time. We think currently the flight altitude you should kind of set for your organization, what should you do, is exactly the first question is that knowing capabilities of AI in 2026, how should customer service look like if we invent it now? How should sales look like if we invent it now? How should software delivery look like if we invent it now? Think about changing the whole end-to-end processes. Think about changing your value streams. How should they look like? You need to know the legacy, but kind of forget it for a while and have a proper vision. Then secondly, and another claim that we're going to go further into today, and we think this is the same importance of a question, that how do we deliver these kind of solutions with AI in our toolkit? Because the reality is that one thing which is 100% clear is that what does this AI offer for the coordination and information work between people? And this warrants structural changes to how we work, but you're kind of practicing the structural AI every time you're doing this. So I leave you to think about this for a while and giving back to Marika, who can tell you how to get started.
So, where to start structural AI journey? This is our approach to delivering structural AI. It consists of three key elements. That is context engineering, knowing where you have your most valuable information. Where is it? Is it available for correct people in correct places? Then intent design. Where do we want to go? How are we going to transform? What is the changes we are making? This is it. And it is supported by the context. And then the agentic delivery. This part is fast. It's getting faster. And it has never been the bottleneck, really. The bottleneck has been in making decisions, refining tickets and doing that work where we are telling what do we want to do. So we want to emphasize the importance of context and intent. And when we have those, delivery has the correct information for them to actually deliver at the speed of AI. All of these phases include people. People are the ones making decisions, knowing where we are going, making the constraints, making the success criteria, and kind of being the boss for the agent. Agent is there to give data, give the correct data, generate some ideas, and people are the ones who choose what is the right thing to do and where do we want to go next. These are some proven methods that we use in our work on daily basis. But today we are going to focus on three very usual starting points. It's about kind of setting up the context to find AI opportunities for your company, and then moving towards the MVP, minimum viable product, that kind of starts the journey towards that. Why are we doing this?
Thank you. I'm the person with the most problems here. Well, just everybody knows this. So the reality is that a lot of the information that powers this delivery or for whatever agentic solutions for how do we build them, it simply lives inside people's heads. Everybody knows this. But this is the reality that due to this kind of issue, we've created a lot of different methodologies from agile to safe and so on, to kind of tackle this coordination depth that this requirement that people need to coordinate and communicate, share information. We've been doing that quite a bit. But still, I bet a lot of people also in the audience watching this can relate to this, that still, even if it would be super important coordination meetings and so on, most of them at the very least feel unproductive. It's a lot of coordination. We need to do it, but it's quite the painful work in often places. And once we implement, I told you through the software delivery example, but the reality is that with the speed AI can offer, this friction of coordination becomes the whole process in reality. But no worries, because we actually have one of the best tools ever to also fix this issue. So what if, instead of having all of this quiet knowledge that we need to coordinate, what if we had one single source of shared truth for both the people and agents that we could tap into, like a map of content we can fetch at demand whenever we need it and curate it together with the people?
And this doesn't mean that we won't need people as experts in their roles. This means that they can access the information that they need in their work.
Yes. So, Marika, what kind of working method does this enable?
Yeah, so for example, you could imagine how information is accessible for your work whenever you need it. You know where you get the data or information that you need for making your decisions for your role, and not making meetings to get that information. So less meetings, more working on your core tasks. But then when you do meet, the meetings would turn more collaborative. It would turn to decision making instead of information sharing. And you would have the information to support all the decisions you make as a structured context in the back scene.
Thank you.
So now we're going to demonstrate you what this looks like in practice, the three first elements that we had in the boxes. So we have chosen...
You're too early with the demo, so you can go back to Power. Thank you, studio people.
So we have chosen retail as an example, and specifically fashion industry, because it is under a lot of pressure to change. It is getting pressure from European Union to move towards more circular business models, to the eco-design directive and extended producer responsibility, etc. But also at the same time, fashion resale market has steadily been growing for years now, and platforms such as Vinted has just make it faster. So what if we invented retail again? How would traditional companies, how could they move towards this circular world? And what do they have that these new platforms don't? So they have their clientele, they know their customer, they know the profiles, they have the correct products for this audience, and they have the curated selection for them. And they have the data of the products, which can improve experience for the consumer end. So how could we transform with agentic AI?
Yes, leading to the research question of structural AI in retail. So we've been talking about this topic of context engineering for a while, but just to shed some light, this is the real process that we did with this case. So first of all, we had a bunch of meetings with different Solita experts, chose the field, what we're working at, which was retail. And naturally then that led to the first meetings when we're discussing with our industry experts, like Marika, for example, regarding the retail industry. And we're building this kind of research plan. What information do we need about the current world so we can imagine a better vision for the future? Then, of course, naturally, based on this first research question, we already curate and collect materials manually that we definitely want for the context. And then we put agents also to study, let's say, these materials that we've given to them, but also public materials you can find online and so on. But the reality is that we're working with language models, so basically we can never trust them fully. So it's a lot of steering. So we check we put them to do a bit of research, going through these studies and so on, and then we do steering. And again, this is the part that we have more meetings with the experts. This might sound silly, but always with transcript on, and then we can get kind of more context to be fed into the machine for then the future vision that we're building. In this case, naturally, if we would be working with a real client, we would also have this golden box called your data to tap into customer knowledge and so on. In this case, we were mostly working with public materials for the demonstration purposes, but naturally it also includes this design materials from Solita. How do we build good product descriptions, basic like user experience related instructions and so on. And in calendar time, this process was like a couple of weeks because it includes, again, still coordination. It's a bit more fun because I'm more like interviewing the experts for this case rather than just, well, it's collection of information. But then what we mentioned earlier, that the economics have shifted currently, that then we can do this rapid prototyping. We could build dozens of these based on the context material. But naturally, we want to make good educative guesses just to highlight the case. And then we have a vision workshop where we collect more information, which then powers the agentic delivery. But really the key point I want to make here is that, still from the context engineering, that what kind of stuff happens here, that at the first research iterations, we got a lot of, it was more focused, the agents were focusing for some reason more into the e-commerce section and going kind of on a tangent. So we needed to steer it a lot towards the circular economy, feed them more materials regarding how that works, what are the biggest players in the field, and so on and so on.
So I think this is one interesting aspect, that human were the people actually visioning new kind of ways, and then AI was kind of supporting that when we had given that direction.
Exactly. And these were the kind of working meetings that we were having. And then again, just to highlight from the real world that I think currently in a lot of marketing materials and publications you can find online, when you talk about context engineering, you kind of get the idea that it's some text files somewhere which are covering everything. This is not the note we want to make. The reason why we have text files like markdown files and so on that we bring as close to the actual prototype development or agentic delivery as possible is because these are curated materials that we can set agents to do modifications to these text files, but it also, again, the problem we cannot trust the agents. So naturally then we have people going through and actually reading all the research, doing modifications, fixing the stuff. And then I mentioned the real world as well. So in the real world, we would also have these on-demand data from your own organization. So a good example is that now a lot of companies have, for example, big systems where all their business process information lives and data process information lives. And this is like absolute gold for context, which we can just then have a connection to these systems and we can get it on demand to validate that the prototypes we're building is based on reality and not some wipe coding as well. That's fun as well, but it's not what we're doing here. And what does this then context look like? Just very quickly. So this, you can see on the left side, we have basically this folder of different research materials about the biggest players in circular economy, how the business models work. You can see an example that we have 3 different versions of business cases that we were checking just beforehand because we didn't approve version 1 or version 2. There were just quite important information included in those files, so we left it. And in reality, this, if you're looking at the delivery which has been going on for ages, the context layer is a lot more massive, so, but this is enough for the purpose of example.
Just if you are not as in as Joel is in this, so these black dots are each just a text file. And this is a fancy way of showing a bunch of text files and their connections.
Yeah, it's the temporary information we need to have available. So if during this vision workshop we have questions that, is this real? We can actually ask the AI agents that, hey, please explain how we got to these hypotheses.
Yeah.
And then the studio can prepare for opening the demonstration videos.
Yeah. So as said, better the context that we are putting in, the better prototype we are going to get. So this is a prototype that also includes kind of context. Why is this prototype and what's happening in it? It starts with, it has these two sides. There's the consumer end and there's the back end, so the merchandiser end, and different tools for each parties. Then the question would be, when we would go to this kind of meeting, we would validate this with technical expertise, but also the actual users who are kind of making sure that, yeah, this looks correct, this doesn't, like, this is not how the industry works. And the best thing would be like, why does this not work? That's what we want to find out, so that we can find what actually works. What are the bits and pieces that will work in there?
And yes, and now you can play the video for the pleasure of the audience today here. It's videos of the demonstration, so we don't ruin your experience, but it's a real prototype built with Figma. Maybe you can just, as it goes, you can explain. These are snippets from the context that we wanted to add to the demonstration.
And as said, this prototype will help people who are not technical to give us their opinions on what works and what not, if they cannot imagine that world.
Yes. And you can just play the video on the loop while we talk through. The reality, we just wanted to mention this part, that it's a better way of communicating than just looking at a PowerPoint and so on. But what's, again, the data, we need to understand how this solution would work. So if we look at the AI capabilities for something like this, it was in the previous section of the video, but it will go back to it at some point. The key point was we need the data spine. So we need super good quality customer and asset and product data and supplier data, basically. That's the key thing. We cannot do anything if that works. So if something there is missing, it's a gap. Then we need to, I think here, the most important AI piece of the puzzle is the demand forecasting and trend forecasting models, which is really hard in fashion. But then what the agents would be doing, they're scaling all of this. So it's not humans reacting to all these signals, it's humans making decisions much faster.
Yeah. And you could see that there is some business logic already calculated. Is this something that would be something to go forward? Would it have the business case
so you can
to try
here
or move forward? So here we have decided to calculate on two examples. What if we had premium suits coming back in this kind of recall program? Those keep value quite well, if not in daily use. But then children's outerwear, that is in daily use of them, but then the short period of the use is something that is feeding the resale market quite nicely.
I've heard that children grow, so it's a good place for recalling.
That is the reason.
But really, we can hop to the next video and we can pause it there. But just the final point, this is like easy napkin mathematics in reality. So we just need to validate, we have enough business case to validate this vision workshop. And for us, 4 million from 2 cases, it's enough to kind of validate that this is worthy of having a bit of vision for. But now we go to the actual demo. So this is the consumer side. My name is Joel Vanhalakka. I'm here today to make my summer purchases. And you can see already it's a prototype. It was built, the first version it took like 15 minutes after the prompt and it was finished. And you can see it already looks like a real web shop. And everybody has seen these clothing web shops, so that's not the most important piece of the puzzle. So maybe let's wait for the video to now pause here. Beautiful. So I entered the web shop. to check stuff, and I noticed that I have a new notification. Me personally, and this is again something we put into the context, that our end users hate chat windows. I wouldn't really, if I go to a web shop to buy clothing, I don't want a chat window. For me, it's more about that, well, I'm willing to do these like easy parts which somehow help me. So another part we had in the context for the user experience is that, again, we need to have super good customer knowledge. And what we already know from the Nordic market is that Nordic people don't really want to give data back unless you get something back. So it needs to be always reciprocal experience. And then the secondary part was that we don't want a chat window, but more like curated views, which might be questions prepared by agents. But really, this is about the collection of data and information to power then the other side. But you can click play. So what I did very recently, I bought a suite. And I always buy my suites from the same place, and I'm always annoyed that they need to take my measurements every time again. So for me, I was thinking very simply fact that when I buy a suite and we wait, whoa, amazing. What if you collected all this information and then I can double check what's there. My shoe size was too big, so I can go forward here. I double check my information. I'm willing to give it to the company because what I'm getting back is much fatter suite purchasing process. And then I can decide what's my kind of budget for dress shirts. Great. And now we get to the important question. Stop here. Would I be willing to go and kind of buy used clothing? I am actually highly willing. These days, quite often when I buy clothing, I do check places like Vinted first, and so on. And now I think the demo moved to the start, so you can just play it forward. So it asked me a lot more questions. My feedback here would be that I can answer at top maybe 3 questions.
So when we were to test this kind of prototype with actual end users, we would get that kind of feedback of, would you use this? Would this be appealing to you?
And now if you stop here, then finally we got through this process of, I think 5 questions is too much, but I could give small snippets of information if I always get something back out of that. And then if you play the video forward, now we can see, and this was also, we put this into the context that whenever you give data to the company, it needs to be super clear that what I've given. So I could see from my profile, I have a better last name here, but I can see all the data that I've given to the company. But then we get to the resales. So stop here. We had the fantastic, because this is the key leading use case that we wanted to demonstrate, but what if now that I bought the new suite, I already have the earlier suite and I know it's the wrong size, I would be highly willing to release it back to resales. And I'm kind of lazy with these kind of applications where you need to sell the stuff yourself. So I have a lot of suites sitting just in my closet, even now. And the key part, then an agent would go on, and it's based on some marketing campaign and so on that we're currently buying suits. And it will release that, do you want to give back your old suit back to resales? And then I would get a notification, which I can click. And then from this notification, again, it needs to be, this is the trust. The video went back to the beginning for some reason. So maybe let's go back where we were and click play. But very simply, it's a trust relationship. So we need to collect some feedback, whether the user will give the information that it's in good condition. It's a trust relationship. So if the user lies, we can also get data out of that. We need to have the pricing, basically that what am I getting from the suite, and based on what is gone. This was in the context that it needs to be super clear. And finally, there's the condition part that if it's bad condition, I'm fine if they take some out from the money, but it needs to be, again, clear. And then I want to purchase more clothing, so then I can just get, very simply, I will drop off the suite to the store, I get immediate credit for the store, and then I can go finally back to what I earlier came here to do, was to buy the Hawaii shirts for the summer, and the system knows to give it to me. So, but that's it. It's enough. We can go to the next part, which is then the merchandiser side, kind of enabling.
So that was how the experience would be for the consumer, but how it would look in the back-end office, in the merchandiser's work desk. So merchandisers have all this data. They are following trends. They are checking if the trends align to their customers. They know their customers. They know their budget and their...
And if you stop here, so we have a bit more time to...
Yeah, so you saw that there are these data on what are the objectives for the season that is being planned, and also kind of what are the trends and are those aligning. It would be suggestions, but there would be experts who know locally what trends would really resonate to their audience. And normally, so this would be spread out in different tools, in different systems. But now, what if you could have those all in one place? This merchandiser had previous week sent out recall campaign because they had noticed that suits are in high demand. So they thought, we cannot order more new suits, so let's make a recall campaign to the previously sold suits and giving the strict rules on what kind of products they want to get back. And it looks like many people has joined, so we are getting many suits, and it's actually more than expected, so maybe we should start campaign earlier. And here again, human would make the decision, do we want to start this campaign? It might affect so many other things, such as merchandising in stores and so on. So are we ready for this? Play. Okay, it looks like we are starting the campaign early. So there's this season planning that is giving you the data that you need to make your work as efficient as possible. But there is also the in-season refill that is something new. That is, fashion is often purchased way before it's in stores. And then refill orders are for certain kind of products only. But what if we can have the already sold products of our customers who don't anymore wear that to their to company's new inventory during season? You can play. Okay, so this would be something that shows these are styles that are going out really fast, and you could start a recall campaign here if that's something that we don't have similar products in stock anymore. So that's kind of the new vision to make that create that new inventory from the customer closets. Thank you. We can go back to the presentation.
Yep.
Here we have identified, so in this kind of internal workshop, we would identify like what kind of AI opportunities do we have? Which of these are we kind of mature for already? We are doing for trend forecasting, and we're doing it really well. Demand forecasting is difficult in fashion, as said, but still we are doing it in a way that is enabled by for this linear model. But then what we don't yet have at all would be this kind of take-back program or the resale new business model. And we would in a meeting decide if we want to pursue to that. Is it technically viable? What would that mean? Is it something that aligns with our vision and goals, etc.? And having those different stakeholders to make these decisions, to have that kind of vision intent.
Exactly, and the key point here is that what we just showed you, it's not a ready suggestion. It's more like a shopping list. It's a pun intended related to the field, but it's a shopping list of different features and use cases. And what we would be first testing, this would be, for example, a vision workshop with the strategic management, with participants, subject matter experts, technical experts to let know immediately what is feasible and what is not. And then the key question during the meeting is that what was wrong about this? Which gives you super good information usually because it goes all the way towards then to what was right about this and so on and so on. And then again, maybe this is the question, Marika, that what do you think from what you saw just now working in the field? What was the feature here now from the prototype that you had the most pull towards? That what do you think is the golden part we should focus on, hypothetically, if you were working here?
If we were to transform towards the circular business models, I would put efforts towards that kind of resale and take-back models.
Okay. And then, if we have a decision maker in the room and we decide this is what we pursue, it's much easier to be in the position of an information architect and stating, okay, we need to have the customer profiling. It needs to be super good data about what purchases they've made, what is the kind of stuff we want to pull back. We need to have the demand forecasting models, and it sets kind of the priorities. And it's so much easier once we've set the vision and we've agreed about it to reverse engineer the way how to get there. Which is this.
How?
So how does this translate to agentic delivery in the model that we're proposing? It's very simply, we've been now talking about these different concepts and so on, but the key point, this is not like a one-off workshop.
Yeah, we earlier had the linear version of this, but
yes.
It actually it's a self-feeding loop.
Exactly. So the key point here that, again, the process, we'll show you an example how we've started at many clients, but it always depends on how your operations are currently, how do you work together and so on. But these are the three key topics that frequently in all the clients we think some processes to each part of these three discs you can see here has been something that's the frequent stuff in all of the flagship clients that we've been now implementing this new operating model for the delivery. So they always belong to parts of this. So what would this look like? And this is an example now that we've been kind of building this sort of common way of delivering in a multitude of clients currently, is that what you saw today was basically this part. It was a quick sneak peek into what the context engineering is. So we do collect, this is a constantly ongoing process of collecting the right information. And in most cases, it's more about mapping where the data exists in your context and how do we bring it closer to the work when we require it. It's not about everything, it's about curation where agents help and people steer.
Think about tools such as Confluence that is really common. How could we kind of have that information that we have there and harness it to development?
Yes.
In more efficient manner than
exactly.
now.
And then we showed a little bit of the intent design. So then based on that, naturally, only in some cases, it's a ready solution. We're talking about AI agents. So the key point, we can already demonstrate the functionalities and test it with real people. We could take the same demonstration we just did, ask directly from the merchandising department that would you use this? And then you're validating already. And then once the intent design is done, and this is what we've been seeing at many of the clients, that older rituals, like for example, like sprint refinement, which is probably common to quite many in the audience here, has turned more into this forward-looking experience where you're figuring already a bit more to the future, that what is the right vision we're going towards. So you're eliminating massive amount of these bottlenecks and reworks by having better vision. And if we look at the whole process, this then translates, that's what's happening on daily basis. It's these research, plan, implement, smaller loops of constantly delivering. But again, all of these three loops run constantly at the clients, and this has been the kind of way we think you should be doing that, of course, tailored according to how your own organization works.
Yeah, and to the refinement, back a little bit to kind of, I've been in so many refinements that we are kind of just as designers explaining what are we making, what is it, but what if developers could have kind of that background information? What does this come from? Why are we making this? Of course, we can explain that and give that information, but that's another layer of work instead of just explaining what are we doing. And these kind of things become so much easier because we, as a designers, have that at hand. We have been making prototypes earlier, so it's not something new, but we can make prototypes faster and more complex than ever before, and so that they actually align and connect with the context that we built those for.
And again, we don't also implement this in big bang manner, that we suddenly take that your whole organization needs to do context engineering and intent design and so on. It's more like we start from a single product line or single team or something. But the key point, all of these is quite compounding. When we start collecting context into machine-readable format, curated intent into machine-readable format, we built ready agentic skills and so on, which expedites all of this kind of the working processes between people. It gets surprisingly easy to then scale and move over to the next teams. And the next teams can quite often use this same shared context for whatever they're doing. So compounding results. But some examples from the clients.
Yeah. How does this feel? How has it gone with our clients? We have collected some snapshot of kind of feedback that we gotten. As stated, prototypes have been there earlier, but the complexity and rapidness of how we can transform them in one meeting has transformed. And it has given us a common language to communicate between technical and non-technical people. And how would this work? Would it work? Is it valuable? Do we want to go there? It is also, like I've experienced from multi-stakeholder, super complex environment where different kind of investments to infrastructure have to be made. This preparing for each decision has been taking so long, but with this kind of digital twin model, you can go to hypothesis faster and give more time to decision than analysis.
And like for my like favorite examples from the mix is that there's the first one from maintenance services that we started this from the, let's say, data development team side, but quite quickly they liked the approach so much that they were asking that can you help us implement the agentic skills and tools with us together so we can scale this to other projects where Solita is maybe not present and so on. So because simply it's a better and more fun way to work together as an organization. Secondly, we've had the same conversation also with developers and information architects and my peers that they're usually quite skeptical about LLMs and content. You cannot trust an agent and so on. But we had this one case in the telco industry where actually we were making a lot of plans and then showcasing the kind of this methodology at the same time, and one of the information architects just asked from the context, just as a test, that hey, does our API actually support that plan that we're making? And they got the right answer. And for them, it was kind of the light bulb moment that usually this requires quite a bit of my time, so maybe it's good to start collecting this together. And then the one final example, because this is just. It's funny, but one of the public sector clients of ours, they actually send us the next project requirements as a markdown file, which they had built collaboratively with the agentic tools. So I think it kind of tells you that it moves the focus quite much to the work instead of figuring out how do I present this idea on PowerPoint and it's so on. But finally, really, we have I advocate for everybody watching this, it should be the link together with this thing is the ISS case with where the Collab AI methodology and so on were originally created. So there's a fantastic web series that people, Solitans from our side, have been just going through the different learnings of the stages in these kind of processes. But then to cool down, a little bit of wrap up.
What did we learn today? First, what is the structural AI and agentic enterprise?
So it's my statement, so I'll tell it. So again, it's the solutions where the AI is such an important role that if you would remove it, it would cause disruption. And over time, usually when you create solutions like this, they start becoming ingrained in your value streams. And the key point here is that because I really think it's the bar worth setting. So therefore, you kind of need to think when you're creating this that not tools, not new processes. How do we transform our value streams and not patch the existing ones? That's the first one.
What AI enables that we couldn't do before? In our example, it could be like a human being could not be looking to data or could, but would take a lot of time to find all the sales history data of that kind of correct kind of products that we want to recall back. That wouldn't be feasible, really. So when agents support you, that it kind of untaps new opportunity and new kind of inventory.
Exactly.
So how to get started with structural AI? There are the two core questions. What should things look like if we invented them today? What if we just ask, we want to offer the right selection of products, no matter, of course it matters which brands, but your customers are already into these brands that you previously sold, and the relationship has been along with your supplier. So what if we just imagined new products and the resale products as one inventory? Could that be something new? And then how do we get there with AI? This is the part, how do you deliver? How do you manage the context and direct the intention so that the AI speed delivery is possible?
And it's a self-feeding loop, because I think truly if you're using these tools in the way that we've already proven that they offer the most value is in the way that we work together. So every time you're building these, setting the vision for structural AI, building these solutions, you're at the same time practicing the muscles as an organization you need for this kind of structural AI solution. So this is it's like a no-brainer that of course you should do this in the similar manner, and this is often the part that's forgotten when thinking about the new fantastic transformative solutions. And then finally, the key point of delivering at the speed of AI is that we did mention it, that the delivery economy has shifted, that before the build was the slow part, but it was already not the bottleneck for quite some while. But now the problem is that we can build things so fast that if we're building them at the speed of AI without stopping and thinking about intent, it doesn't mean that we're building the right thing. It means we're building a lot of chaos, which is really hard to coordinate and align on. So therefore, we should shift more of the resources and how we do into the intent and context management parts. And it's also, I think, I wouldn't like to be talking, if we go a few years into the future, anymore about these separate silos of IT and business teams. I think where the magic actually happens in these kind of cases when we have teams that are enabled. So they have the capability to design, they have the capability to decide, and they have the capability of delivering together, not as some separate silos that you order stuff from. So the vision we want to see, but we really believe that this is just simply a better way to do the work together. And then we get to the fun part of the questions. So thank you to all the listeners so far. We have a device here.
Okay, so what does good look like in context engineering?
Well, I can take this as an information architect, but I think it's partly like a marketing word that has come up from these AI solutions and so on, that it's treated as something new. But in reality, it's something that we've been doing in the information management field for ages now, that where does stuff live? Who owns the stuff? How do we curate the stuff? How do we keep it in good condition and so on? And previously, especially the curation parts and so on, they were quite painful. So the new part in the mix of context engineering, I think it's really the part, how do we implement tools that we can have the context building as a natural part that happens almost automatically during these kind of working meetings and so on. And then the key point is, it's again a map. It's not like it lives in a markdown file. It might live in a Confluence, it might live in your enterprise architecture solution, it might live somewhere. So we just need a map of content where to get the stuff. And then it sets, again, these are the old requirements that we need to have ownership over information, who maintains that, but it's just, now you have more value from that. It's less painful to do that. So I think it's like the same stuff as before, but better and faster.
Yeah.
So to say.
And one thing that we didn't maybe mention was that when you are then going to intent design, you know what context you have, you know where the information is that you need, and you curate information that you need to kind of have that intent in place. So it's not only for making better outputs, but it's also for losing less tokens, if I am correct. And that means less cost.
And not everything needs to be written by agents is also the key point. But actually, one of my examples is that we information and enterprise architects sometimes have the tendency that we want to proactively document stuff a lot. And a lot of companies have been doing this, that they've been building these massive repositories of information about business processes, data and information, which previously it was kind of hard to validate whether that's important, what do you get in return. But now with the kind of agentic tooling, it's a freaking gold mine. So everybody who has been doing this, congrats to you. I still keep doing it. Do it by business priority is still my point, but it's more valuable now than ever if you have this.
Okay, second question. What would be the best place to orchestrate agents in Azure environment? Is that like, yeah. So what would be the best place? Do we have go-to places?
We're a technology agnostic company. There's a lot of, I think there was yesterday another crash course on the more technical side of agent orchestration. So that's a better place to go check for materials on that. But then again, of course, in Microsoft, we have Azure AI Foundry and all of these solutions. So it's more about what the tools your organization likes working with.
Exactly.
And better places for information for that. This was more about the, let's say, the AI native operating model and so on today.
And what makes sense for your company? So not just choosing one, but making the decisions on where to build the agents in a way that is supporting. It makes sense in the roadmap for your company. Where you are now, where do you want to go, and then see is there some new platform you're going towards, or do you have the necessary capabilities in your current environments?
Now that the costs are on the rise, what are some strategies to save on tokens? It's a fun question. Probably could have a complete crash course on that, but I think you have ways to save it in the development, but the best way to save them is to stop developing the wrong things. That's the reality. I've been in projects where I've come there as an information architect, checked the backlog, and noticed for 6 months we've been building something that's completely not feasible. And now you can, again, you pay for the people as well. So it's not a new problem again. I think this is just about optimizing that we put the resources to the right place. And well, coming back to the token optimization and so on, naturally, it's the research, the context and the intent, optimizing workflows, using the right LLMs for the right purpose, using the right tools for the purpose and so on. But it's more about stop doing token maxing, start doing intent maxing or something. It's a long topic, but hopefully this is the hill I will die on, that prefer building the right things.
Okay, I hope that answered. So question 4 would be, do you recommend custom agent harnesses for organizations, or should everyone use Microsoft, Google, Amazon, AWS and Databricks? Custom agent harnesses for organizations. Okay, yeah.
It's a political question to answer from the whole mouth of the company, but I think my answer would be here. Annoying consultant answer slightly that it depends. But in reality, the fact is that currently the big players, they do have the best of breed solutions available. If you build your own, it's naturally you're putting a bit more effort there, but it does offer a lot of possibilities when it comes to that. You can actually have ownership over your own IPO. And well, we're looking at the right camera. So you can have this is the key point, that it's more about where do you give out your data? What are the requirements setting on that? I do think investing also into your own tools and building those, it's a good place to make. So you have options available depending on the use cases.
Question 5, how would you approach this fashion retail use case with customer using a shopping AI agent? Hence, no or less web UI needed for agentic commerce. So I believe that shopping AI agent is for shopping purposes. Here, this use case was more towards the recall. So what do I do with the products that I already have but no longer use. For example, if the suit is currently, the old suit is small and I just received new one, agents can identify that that you sized up. So probably this person would not need this suit anymore. How would we approach this? Well, first of all, I would identify if this is something the company would want to go forward to. Then I would go and test that with users. And if this shopping AI agent is something plug-in type of product, we could, if this recall model is something, I don't know if there exist tools for this or software for this or plug-in products for this, but it could be also if it's the business case is strong enough and customers are saying that, yes, I would love to get rid of the clothes that I no longer use and earn some credits or money to buy new, then it might be considerable to build your own agentic solution for that. And as said, delivery is not the difficult part, it's choosing what to build.
Yeah, and again, because I would have a lot of more questions towards you, that what is the specific use case? Like, for example, one thing that is currently quite interesting is that instead of doing optimization about the available data for search engines, that how do you optimize your own web shops and so on for that somebody using like ChatGPT or similar solution that they can find then the products and so on. But that's a completely different use case, but then it all boils down that you need to kind of find out what the kind of users want to use. Mm-hmm. And then the second part, if the use case is what I mentioned, then it's all about the data. That how do you get this information? How do you push that the agents want to offer your products and so on?
Knowing your customers and knowing where you want to head with your company. Again. So next question here is, do you have experiences with Microsoft Power Platform and AI built upon that?
As a company, yes. As an information architect, slightly, yes. But this is a topic I would probably
pass on
to one of our colleagues. We do have specific teams working exactly on this. So Power Platform Plus using the Microsoft AI tooling. So yes, we do.
So next, we are looking to create an AI-agnostic knowledge data layer so we can connect any AI agent to it. Any ideas about that? Maybe I pass this to our information architect.
Yes. So again, a political question. If you, this is something we also discuss quite a bit with other information architects at our company. But the reality is that there's, if you go to an enterprise, there's already like massive industrial enterprises and so on. There's massive places where the data already is. And then it comes back to the case that, especially coming to Solita data side, we have a lot of these cases, for example, where the kind of context layer and information layer for the agents is built on top of the data platform, where you have analytical purposes and so on. But if you have AI agents that require operative data, like very quick, almost real-time kind of requirements, in that case, it's always you need to connect towards the operative systems where the data is. So you need to build the context layer closer and so on. So it's a long question, but I think there's a massive amount of different tools already. So it's not more about maybe, it's finding the places you need to connect to, depending on the use case, and then finding the frequent, like reusable stuff. Like in many cases, we have this kind of stuff that we build, for example, data products that many agents can use. And it's a valid use case, especially for the analytical cases, but this is the key point that don't forget that sometimes we have the operative cases where it's better to connect closer towards where the information is managed and so on.
Okay. Do you use your MDM solution for the data management?
Well, I say that we're also being a person who has been working with the MDM solutions in the mix. It's a great source for information for the agents. But if we take, for example, the cases we discussed today, it's again a question more like where does your customer data live? because I think customer experience is a good example of stuff that even if you have a master data management solution, quite often that information, because it's not only about the customer master data, it's also about the transaction, what did the client buy, what kind of feedback did the client give in the web shop, and so on. So it again goes back into it's one of the fantastic sources, coming back to the earlier question about if you were to build a common layer of knowledge for all the agents everywhere, which again, I think it's partially a map of content, but this at the MDM there, combine it with other stuff. It's kind of a non-friction processing often the analytical cases that you can do the combination, cleanup and curation in the data platform side, but then of course you need to make sure in the operative side where the data is coming, that needs to be good quality and so on. So yes, use MDM.
Thank you. It seems like that's end of our questions. I want to ask one more question to you, Joel. What do you think is the most important thing here? We already said.
Yeah. So
just one last note.
My last note would be really that you need to set the flight altitude high enough. Remember the way the past is and the legacies, but really think high, because I truly think these new tools, they warrant changes into how we operate completely as organization, and that's all about both the structural AI solutions and how do we work together. Yeah. Thank you. Marika, do you have a last tenet before we end up?
Yeah, I can join that, and then also kind of when you start to deconstruct that, take people with, so that kind of team that we were talking about, that there are people who are actually doing that work, they understand the business there, and they have the common language to talk to technical people throughout this kind of prototyping or whatnot. And then when you have that, the transformation will become easier when people are actually feeling like they contribute to what direction we are going, and when you are giving them tools that actually give them the time back that they can do the work that they are educated for and that they were kind of hired for, and them to create that value for the organization as well. So I think that team thought is really something valuable here as well.
So hopefully in the future as well, you will be seeing people giving this presentation, not just the agents. That's what we believe in. To this note, we thank you highly. Thank you for your time, and we hope you will have a fantastic already closing in summertime. So cheers, and see you at the data and AI markets.